This is the nature of the mind as it intersects and interacts with the creation, the physical world around us. And so we are the soul, we are spirit, we are consciousness. And I'm throwing all of these words out not as semantic distinctions, but as different words because you all come from different cultures, and one of them is going to work with you. So whichever of them works with you, that's perfect. So we are soul, we are spirit, we are divine, we are consciousness. We have a body. But the mind misidentifies self as body. And so rather than saying, oh, wow, thanks for giving me this great healthy body and functional legs and functional arms and to be able to move through the world and experience the world and see myself, my true self, so I can actually experience the divinity of who I am. Instead of looking at it like that, of thanks for this body I'm going to use. I'm going to use my arms for one thing, my legs for something else, my brain for something else. Instead of that, we look at it and we say, this is who I am. I am this body. And that is seen as the source of all suffering, is that misidentification. The problem is it's rampant, it's pervasive, it's epidemic, it's everywhere you look, and it's even in the nature of your own mind. So it's not a matter of, well, if I could just, shut off the TV commercials and not see any billboards, and then I'd be okay. It's the nature of the mind. This is when we speak about illusion, about Maya, or samsara. These terms come in when we talk about it because we get pulled into that illusion. We get pulled into that life. And this is where we keep reminding ourselves. This is why we meditate. It's why we come to spiritual places. It's why we do as much of this as we can. It's why we train our minds. The meditation is not just a reprieve. The meditation is not just like a hot bath and now I feel peaceful and calm until I go back to work tomorrow and then I'm going to be all stressed out again. The meditation actually trains the mind. So the more you do it, the more you remember. Like if you were learning to play the piano, the more times you play a song, the easier it is. You get a new job in a new area of town, well, you've got to, look at directions of how to get there. Once you've had that job for a few years, you could drive yourself from home to the office blindfolded, basically. You've trained yourself. It's become your nature. This is why we meditate. It's why we pray. It's why we spend time in spiritual places with spiritual people, doing things like satsang, doing things like arti. It's why we do seva, to remind us that that which I am doing is in service, is not for me. Because usually in most of our lives, my spiritual practice is all inside me. It's when I'm sitting on a cushion or I'm sitting on a mat. And then everything that I'm doing off the cushion, off the mat, in the world, is perpetuating that illusion. So whether it's in my relationships, whether it's in my job, whether it's in my social circles, whether it's in, the changing rooms at department stores, trying on clothes, whatever it is, that which I'm doing reinforces this false identity. You are the body, You are your role, you are your title, you are your career, you are your socioeconomic status, you are how that guy in the bar just looked at you. You are all of these things. And this is why we keep bringing ourselves back to our spiritual practice as much as we can. The internal practice and the external practice. It's why we do seva. Whether you can do it full-time or part-time, whatever it is. But we do it to remind ourselves that there isn't this distinction, that which I do also, eyes open off the mat, off the cushion, in the world, that's also part of my spiritual practice. It's not about, how I look in the mirror of the dressing room. It's not about how this person looked at me or that person looked at me. It's not about where I am on the socioeconomic ladder or the social ladder. When I'm doing seva, it's all about service for growth, spiritual growth. Service for others, yes, of course. But service for my spiritual growth as well. And so that's where we do all of these things, to keep reminding ourselves as much as we can. It's why we try to spend time with spiritual people. I mean, if your entire friend circle says, my God, did you gain weight over the weekend? It's going to be really hard to keep being in soul. But if you've got a friend circle that's on that same path, well, that's going to make it much easier. It's the importance we talk about sangha, the people we hang out with. If what they're talking about is your body and how much do you make, and you're going to stay stuck in that. But if the people you're with are on spiritual paths, even if they're paths that are different than yours, it doesn't matter. As long as there's that focus, it's going to be a lot easier. When you say uncertainty, you mean uncertainty about what's going to happen in your life. It's a really difficult paradox because we need faith to live. We cannot live without faith. If you don't have faith that your heart's going to keep beating while you sleep, you would never fall asleep. If the doctor said to you, oh my God, you've got this horrible illness that if you're not paying attention, your heart will stop beating, you would have a really hard time lying down and going to sleep. If you didn't have faith that your home was not going to burn down overnight, you'd have a really hard time going to sleep. If you didn't have faith that your loved ones were going to be there in the morning when you woke up, you'd have a hard time going to sleep. Moving through the world requires faith. If you didn't have faith that the pilot got a good night's sleep, wasn't on drugs, wasn't on a suicide mission, you wouldn't get on a flight. We have to have faith to be able to move through the world. If you didn't have faith in the people who built this building that the roof wasn't going to fall on us, we wouldn't sit here. If you didn't have faith in the guys who strung up the fans that they weren't going to, fall down and slice us all up, we wouldn't sit here, or we at least wouldn't turn the fans on. So every moment of life requires faith. It requires faith in people we don't even know. It requires faith in people who did things that we don't even know when they did them, Who oversaw it? I mean, who was in charge of putting up these fans anyway? Who oversaw the guys? Who made it? You don't know. But we have to have faith or life becomes absolutely unlivable. And we move through the world with the awareness of uncertainty. Yeah, the roof could fall. Yes, there could be a fire overnight. Not every single person who goes to sleep at night wakes up without their house burning overnight. I am sure that last night, someone's home somewhere in the world burned down. Probably more than one. Chances are that person, when they went to sleep, weren't anticipating it. Somewhere in the world, someone woke up to find that their loved one was no longer living who had been living when they went to sleep at night. Probably a lot of people. And really the key is, how can you hold both realities at the same time? Because pretending that there isn't uncertainty isn't the answer. And yet, living without faith is a recipe for disaster, because you cannot protect yourself against everything. Yeah, you could hose your home every night before you went to sleep. Wouldn't help you in an earthquake. Right? So you do it from one side, but then you don't know. It's going to get you somewhere else. And this is where faith is so important. Not blind faith. Doesn't mean I don't think there's a possibility that things could happen. It just means I have faith in the universe. I have faith in a wisdom in the universe. And if you want faith in that wisdom, all you have to do is look at nature. There is a wisdom in the universe. There is a beautiful, beautiful wisdom in all of the natural world. How seeds sprout, how flowers blossom, how trees grow and give us fruit. How ice melts and gives us a river that irrigates fields and feeds animals and people. How the seasons come in just a certain way. And there's an intelligence, because the seeds sprout at the right time of year. They don't sprout in winter when they're going to freeze to death. They sprout in spring. There's a wisdom there. There's an intelligence. And having faith in that. And holding the uncertainty. Holding the awareness that I don't know. But the question then becomes, and really the key is, can I be anchored in something other than what I want to happen happening? And so, for example, you do a project at work, you work really hard on something. It could totally flop. It could get nowhere past your boss's desk even. A colleague could steal it and put their name on it. A loved one could die. Your house could burn down. But if your sense of peace in the world, if your sense of your ability to move through the world, grounded, anchored, peaceful, joyful. I don't mean always happy. I mean, obviously, if your house burns down, it's a rare person who's going to say, well, that was a great day. Thank God I've been, I was just about to give myself a huge headache and remodeling. Thank God somebody, took that away from me. Nobody says that. Loved one dies, nobody says, oh, that's so fantastic. So it's not that every day is going to be happy. It's not that everything we want to happen is going to happen. But anchored to a source of joy in life itself, in existence itself, that is able to be sustained even when things are going up and down on the surface. That's able to be anchored and grounded in something much more permanent than our home or our relationships. And that's the only way. Because today or tomorrow or next week, something you don't want to happen is going to happen, I guarantee you. Happens to a lot of us every day. But the question is, how can I not lose myself in that? Because you don't know where it's going to come from next. Everything is uncertain. Will we still be sitting here at the end of this answer, or will the roof have fallen? We have no idea. Will there be an earthquake that, swallows us up? Will there be a flood that drowns us out? We don't know. But we have to be grounded and anchored in existence, in our faith, such that we can move through the world knowing that however many days I have left, however many days my loved ones have left, let's make the best of them. At least let's not complain. Let's not grumble. Let's not fight. Let's help each other, love each other, whatever it may be. And for all of the other stuff, the work stuff, the money stuff, the look stuff, that stuff, just pull out your personal anchor, your personal hook from it. So yeah, it's uncertain. But you are certain. You are going to be here. In what form, I don't know. But this is what Lord Krishna emphasizes so beautifully in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, and that whole beautiful teaching about the soul. Never was born, never dies, cannot be cut with weapons, cannot be burned with fire, cannot be dried with the wind. So whatever happens, it doesn't touch the soul. That's certain. And the more anchored we can be in that, then the less impacted we are by that which continues to happen in the not soul part of